Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Strategic Development Committee of Newham Council, delivered via Zoom and YouTube. Can everyone in the Zoom room hear me? You just wave your hand. Yeah, it looks good. Apologies for the time we've started. There were some technical issues, so let's get on with it. I'm Daniel Blaney. I'm the chair of the Strategic Development Committee. I'm going to ask members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves. I think the clerk of the committee, Shirley Fortune, may be managing that, so it's not a complete chaos. Shirley.
Thank you. Okay, so we have apologies from your vice chair, but I can see. I can see Councillor Beckles.
Hello, Councillor James Beckles for Custom House Ward and member of the committee.
Councillor Alan Griffiths. Okay.
Good afternoon, Councillor Alan Griffiths, Kenningham South Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Tripp.
Hello, Councillor Rachel Tripp from Forest Gate North Ward.
Councillor Harvinder Singh Verdi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councillor Harvinder Singh Verdi from Bowling Ward.
And Councillor Whitworth.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Whitworth, Councillor for West Ham Ward.
And thank you. And our officers, starting with Jane.
Thank you. I'm Jane Custance. I'm the Director of Planning and Development and the Chief Planning Officer.
And James Bolt.
Good afternoon. I'm James Bolt, Senior Development Manager.
Amanda Jane.
Hello, I'm Amanda Jane Campbell, Principal Planning Lawyer.
And Narinder.
Afternoon, everyone. It's Narinder Ubi, Transportation Principal Officer.
And our planning officers are Harriet.
Hello, my name is Harriet Beattie. I'm a Principal Planning Officer.
Rajinder.
Hello, I'm Rajinder Kaur. I'm Principal Planning Officer.
And Sean.
Hello, I'm Sean Scott. I'm a Principal Planning Officer.
Thank you. And also on the meeting is Shirley Fortune, the clerk, and Janine Jenkinson, who's our Zoom coordinator. Thank you, Chair.
There's me going wrong. I understand we had apologies from Carly Parkway, the vice chair. Are there any others?
Councillor Maz Patel.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Item 2 is minutes of successive meetings. On page 13 is the 17th of November meeting, to which I sent my apologies. Can anyone in the meeting confirm that they are a correct record? I think we are looking at James Beckles and Harvinder Singh Verdi. Are they a correct record? I'm not seeing violent objections, so I'm going to take it from the chair that they are agreed as a correct record.
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The 8th of December 2020, I had a couple of corrections on page 25. Well, one definite correction, which is 3/4 of the way down, the chair mindful of setting a precedent. I think that should be Councillor Rachel Tripp, mindful of setting a precedent, moved an amendment, because I am sure that wasn't me. And then I do remember it being seconded by John Whitworth.
That's my recollection as well, Chair. Thank you.
It's true, yes.
Thank you. And then the other one, I think it would be right to say the paragraph on the same page that starts the committee dated the proposed special case. I think that should be in contrary to the Mayor of London's draft London plan. I don't know if anyone would correct me on that, but I think that is what it should say.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other corrections to those minutes of the 8th of December? I'm not seeing anyone, so I will take them as agreed. And the 26th of January 2021. Is that James Bolt? No, he was just doing something with his headphones. Anyone else correcting those minutes? They approved. I think they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. Declarations of interest. Any members wish to declare an interest? Harvinder.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. So if I could make a statement, it would make it a bit easier. During the council term of 2011, I, along with other council members, used to attend the Upton Centre, which is item 1 on the agenda, and I used to hold my surgeries at the centre. I did not agree with the demolishing and the relocations of the users, and I do not morally agree with the loss of the community facility. In 2019, we did agree a community facility at the centre. However, the new plans of 2022-2021 plans indicate differently. So I'm in a difficult position. So could I ask the legal, in the sense that where do we go from here? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Singh Verdi. I know the Code of Conduct for Members and the Council's Constitution, paragraph 5.1, does provide for non-pecuniary disclosable interests, and that we have to consider what the public acting reasonably might well perceive or consider concerning your conflict and ability to make decisions, especially in relation to what you've described to us. So I would say for this one, I should be obliged if you recuse yourself from decision making in relation to the Upton Centre.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other declarations? I don't think I see any hands up. I will move on. Agenda item 4. Members are asked to note the advice from the Head of Legal Services. Do take into account that the Mayor of London's London Plan should be published in days, and that has also been an increasingly material consideration as it has gone through the process of adoption, and ask people to have regard to that. So with that in mind, are members noting the advice from legal services? Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is announcements from the chair. So had the following request to speak. Could speakers please identify themselves when I call out their name? It might be helpful if we test your microphone. Simon Davis, local resident. Hi. The Upton Centre. Hello. And then Mr. Miraj Patel.
Hello. Here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kathari. No, Mr. Kathari. Is there a Mrs. Varsha Patel?
Oh no, he is present. He is present.
Okay,
Mr.
fine.
Kathari is
I
present.
am here. Thank you. Good afternoon.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Varsha Patel. Thank you very much. I've been given the name Patel, Miss Mystery. I'll correct that. Thank you. And then do we also have Mazhar Ali?
Yes, Chair, present.
Thank you. And Alex Jones.
Hello, yes, I'm present.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 6. I've been advised that some of these people may not yet be with us. We'll see who we've got. We've got Kate Chadwick. Maybe not.
Yes,
yet.
I'm here.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Amel Islek. Maybe not.
Hello,
Beth,
yes, I'm here.
yeah, you
I'm
are
here.
Great. Thank you very much. That's good. Beth Hicklin Moore. Going to wait longer this time. I have 2 screens and I don't think.
He's not able to attend tonight, Chair.
Thank you very much. The usual practice is to allow up to 5 minutes in total for both supporters and objectives for any scheme. So that means whether those people know each other before or not, they're all bundled into one time limit and have to share that time. Now, I understand that there's a number of objectors in relation to the Upton Centre. My suggestion, and I'm open to hearing committee members' views, is that we allow 10 minutes in total to hear from objectors to the Upton Centre, but 5 minutes in relation to all other matters, including the applicant team for the Upton Centre, who can, of course, respond to any specific points from the objectors to make up that time and make it equal. Do members agree with that?
Agreed, Chair.
I'm seeing nods. Thank you very much. Right, and in relation to the order of business, we have a committee update. Can I just check, have all members received the committee update? Looks like they have. Because of that, and it's quite a lengthy update and it relates to the Upton Centre, my suggestion is that we move the agenda round, perhaps have a break that includes reading that, and start with agenda item 8 and then do it in reverse order, Littlefoot School, and then finally the Upton Centre. Anyone object to rearrange the order of business accordingly? Can't see any objections. In that case, I'm taking it we will. So we go to agenda item 8, which is area 7 and 1C. IC Barking Road. Harvinder, yes.
Yeah, Chair, when it comes to the next item, which is the Upton Centre, what is going to be the position? Am I going to be moved to the waiting room and then be called back in?
I think the legal advisor's nodding accordingly. So, in fact, unless you want to stay for the item date of next meeting, which is sometimes worth staying for, and I'm not being sarcastic there, you could actually leave if you wanted to, I think, after the agenda items 8 and 7, which we'll do first.
Okay, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 8, I think we're going straight to our committee report presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Item 8 relates to Hallsville Quarter areas 7 and 1C. So here's the site location. As you can see, the Hallsville Quarter is located centrally within Canning Town, and this application relates to the Hallsville Quarter Phase 3. And in particular, if you look to the right there in green and blue, blocks E and F. So this is what blocks E and F look like. This is the proposed scheme, but notes that the shape and envelope of the building has not changed for this reserved matters application. So this is an application for the approval of reserved matters, and the application is to discharge details of the layout, appearance of the buildings, in particular blocks E and F. And this is pursuant to planning permission, the planning permission approved on the 14th of June 2019. Just a bit of background to the proposal. The Hallsville application was initially granted in March 2012 for the following development. So it's the comprehensive redevelopment of the land known as areas 7 and 1C to include the demolition of existing buildings and associated structures, the alteration of highways, engineering and construction of new buildings and structures to provide retail uses, including a food store, residential dwellings, leisure and health uses, office, live work units, research and development, light industry, and a hotel. In addition, student accommodation and an energy centre, basement and semi-basement parking, landscaping, and so on. This reserved matters application seeks to make internal alterations and design changes to accommodate the University College of Osteopathy within block F. And also consequently there are amendments to block E. So just to run through some of the key changes here. This is on the left here. It'll be a running theme throughout my presentation. We've got the approved, and then on the right, the proposed. So just to kind of give you an impression of the changes that are happening. So there's a change to the layout of the cycle parking spaces. However, overall, the provision of spaces align with what's permitted within the master permission. And there's a reduction of 6 parking spaces to the previous scheme, leaving 68 parking spaces. On the ground floor, this is the ground floor layout. The alterations include the omission of 3 retail units shown here, and the reconfiguration, which is more open to accommodate the University College. Changes to the residential lobby are also proposed to assist with improved legibility and fire regulations. And there's changes to entrances to include to assist with the new use for 3 double doors around for the University College. Here's just an impression of the facade changes to block F on the northern elevation. So we've got changes to the curtain wall louver zone. So you'll see here it's amended to include some glazing on the top floor, on the first floor. And then there's the relocation of access doors just over here. There's a minor change compared to the approved. And then there's a change to the curtain walling within some of the glazing as well, just here. On the south elevation, there are changes to the louvered curtain walling to glazing to help accommodate the University College. And then the parapet, so that's here. And then the parapet has also been lowered ever so slightly. It's barely noticeable compared to the other drawing. So Block E consequently has some changes. So there's changes to the residential lobby layout and entrance layout. So that's over here. And then there's the relocation of the estates management suite from Block F to Block E. And then there's a slight rearrangement of back of house retail layouts to suit these changes. Block E facade changes on the northern elevation are shown here, and there's update to the louver area. So you'll see that the louvers here are increased ever so slightly on the north facade. And then the south elevation of Block E, there's also a minor change here to include a door or a door here. Which will help to suit the management suite. So the key planning issues for this application are design and access, impacts on heritage assets, transport and travel, the environmental statement, and compliance with other planning conditions. So in regards to design and access, as set out in the report, there are a number of design changes to blocks E and F. These changes include mainly alterations to the facade and the ground and first floor levels. The strategic design manager has been consulted and is supportive of the proposal, and the changes are considered to be relatively minor and not considered to have a detrimental impact. And more importantly, the original design intent as originally approved would be maintained. The proposed development with respect to design and access is therefore supported. In terms of impact on heritage assets, officers have given consideration to the importance and weight to the desirability of preserving the setting, character and appearance of heritage assets in accordance with Section 66 of the Planning Act 1990, in accordance with the Council's statutory duties and relevant policies of the development plan. The Council has had special regard to the desirability of preserving and enhancing the setting of the former Royal Oak Public House and a Grade 2 listed building located on Barking Road, and locally listed buildings including St Margaret's Church, Anchor House, the Public Library, and the NatWest Bank. Officers conclude that the proposed changes will not harm the setting of these heritage assets, and in terms of heritage assets, heritage impact, officers give support. Transport and travel. The proposed changes to the car parking layout result in the loss of 6 residence car parking spaces. 110 cycle parking spaces are proposed. A total of 14 parking spaces, 14 cycle parking spaces have been lost from the ground floor, and these are associated with the previous retail use. And 110 and the 110 proposed in the basement are now all spaces specifically for the University College. This results in an uplift of 96 spaces in total. This is in line with the standards set out within the publication local plan, within the publication London plan, and the LBN Transportation has been consulted and support the reduction in the number of car parking spaces in favour of sustainability and sustainable modes of transport. The site is highly accessible by public transport and is in close proximity to Canning Town Station, and LBN Transportation support the provision of the cycle parking, which accords with the publication London plan requirements. The proposed development with respect to the impact on transport is supported. The original application approved in March 2012 was accompanied by an environmental statement. We have had regard to the EIA regulations 2011 as amended, and the application is therefore accompanied by an environmental statement of conformity. This has been independently reviewed on behalf of the council by LUC. It concludes that the changes set out in the application are not expected to have any significant negative impacts on the energy, socio-economics and transport. They did raise a query in regards to waste, and a condition was suggested to make this, to ensure that we capture this. We have amended an existing waste condition, and this has been submitted separately under a non-material amendment application. And officers propose that if this application is minded for approval, that we will issue both decisions simultaneously to capture what has been suggested by LUC, and we consider that this matter is now satisfied. The changes set out in the application are minor and do not appear to be significant in the wider context of the development or alter the original scheme, which was assessed in the environmental impact assessment, with the majority of alterations being internal and cosmetic. It is accepted by officers that a further environmental statement review does not need to be undertaken as detailed within the committee report. So officers have considered compliance with other planning conditions. So the outline consent to which this reserved matters application relates includes a number of conditions which require specific details to be provided in conjunction with a reserved matters application. These conditions are listed as follows, and the proposed changes do not alter any of the parameters that have previously been approved by LBN in relation to these conditions. A consultation exercise was undertaken, and of the 861 letters sent, we have not received any responses. The officer recommendation. Strategic Development Committee is asked to resolve to agree the reasons for approval of the reserved matter of layout and appearance as set out in the report, and delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant approval of the reserved matters in relation to the layout and appearance pursuant to condition B1 of planning permission the planning permission as follows. In respect of phase 3 development parcel 3, blocks D, D2, E and F of area 7 and 1C of the Hallsville Quarter, based on the conditions listed in Appendix 1 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I believe there are or is persons from the applicant team if there are questions from members, but they weren't doing a presentation, I understand. Do members have any questions or comments on this matter? Rachel, and I think that's it at the moment. Rachel.
Just the one question, and I'm aware this may well reflect the details of the original permission that was given. I wanted to query with our transport advisor that even with the reduction in parking spaces, it does still seem to me that this application has quite a large number of parking spaces. I'm much more accustomed to seeing these sorts of applications being car-free with just some spaces available for disabled residents. I'm just keen to hear a comment on that, please.
Sure, through the chair,
yeah.
Narinder will be transportation officer. Exactly, my question was that, and my initial response to the scheme was that there should be car-free development. But I understand the planners do have some sort of respect to what's previously been granted. It'd probably be best for the planners to sort of state or why that was not taken forward, but those were my initial responses, as you have, Councillor Tripp.
Yeah, there's something in the committee report, isn't there, about ongoing work to reduce parking on the scheme? Back to Sean.
Thank you. If I can just add, this is not a planning permission in its own right. This was granted planning permission back in 2011, and there's been some variations to it. This proposal is just the details that come forward, and they are to fall in line with that permission. So there has been a number of reductions to the car parking, and that is supported. But as it stands, they are falling in line with the permission as approved back in 2011.
Yeah, Rachel, you want to come back?
Yeah, I guess I'd just add for the applicants and indeed anyone else who might be listening that obviously we understand that applications are always assessed according to the criteria in force when that application is heard. But where criteria and where planning policy moves forward, particularly when it moves forward in a way that would allow developers more space for other things, which presumably would be a positive for them as well, I think I can venture to speak for the committee and say we always welcome amendments to applications that bring a positive improvement to the application. And if developers wanted to come back and say, oh, actually now we would like even fewer car parking spaces and to do this very positive thing for the community with the space instead, that's the kind of thing that would be very much in line with the kind of things that we want from Newham.
Yeah, I don't think we need to add to that. I think point well made. It's a site that irritates me with the amount of parking, but as has been said, approved a long time ago originally. Okay, can we move to the vote on the recommendation? It's on page 247, the recommendation, that it goes over into page 248. It is a recommendation for approval. Just bear with me while I find my members on my screen. Yeah, there they are. Can everyone in favour please show their hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can see 6,
7.
and that is
7, Chair, I think.
Oh, I can't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6, you're right.
Oh, I'm right this time.
Yes,
I'm
you are.
often wrong. Okay, yes, 6. Okay, thank you. And I think that's everyone, so that's unanimous and that's approved. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 7. Now, I've been passed an electronic note that the list I was handed of participants from the applicant team are greater than the people who introduced themselves earlier. Now, can I check? Is it correct that all the people who've indicated to speak on agenda item 7 are speaking in support of the application and have coordinated their remarks between them. Can anyone from that team or persons assist me?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, right. If that is the case, I'm just going to start. Do you have a presentation or are you just speaking?
We have a presentation.
Okay, in that case, I will set my timer. You have 5 minutes and you can start now.
Thank you very much.
Apologies, Chair. I'm due to share screen as part of our presentation, but don't have permissions from the host.
Apologies, I made David the co-host. You have it now. Thank you.
Thanks. Start again. Yeah.
Can everyone see okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Finlay. Good afternoon, councillors. My name is David Tucker and I'm a director at Rivington Street Studio Architects. This proposal is for new works at Littlefoot School in Manor Park. With me is the head teacher, Ian Wilson, London Borough of Newham Programme Manager, Trina Lyons, my colleagues, Emma Murphy and Finlay McGee, as well as Tim Aldridge and Zoe Power, also from London Borough of Newham. The current application is part of a master plan for the school site that we've been working on since early 2019, which will eventually include a 2-form expansion. This is indicated here for context, and an application for the expansion will be submitted later in the spring. The application in front of you this afternoon consists of a new school entrance pavilion, SEN hub, internal remodelling works to the existing main school building, and some small extensions to the existing sports hall, which are being pointed out on the screen. The existing school building was constructed as part of the Priority Schools Building Programme in 2015. We are being given an opportunity here to make it better suited to the school's current and future needs. The school's entrance is in the knuckle of the building and requires visitors to walk unsupervised from the street entrance. This means that a large part of the external space cannot be used by students for safeguarding reasons. Our new pavilion makes the school entrance more public facing and releases both the external space for the benefit of the students and allows us to enhance some of the specialist teaching spaces and the dining hall within the school. The pavilion includes all of the community facing accommodation. The curved elevation of the new pavilion creates an attractive gateway to the school with a combination of red oxide aluminium fins and reinforced panels sat on a tough precast concrete base. Here's some similar building precedents with metal cladding which are in the public realm. A range of improved SEN accommodation is also proposed to enhance the school's existing ASD base on the right and to provide a new 2-classroom SEN hub for children with complex needs on the left. The SEN hub is conceived as a single-storey timber cabin as a respite from the hustle and bustle of the main school corridor. It has external covered space and a dedicated garden. All existing and proposed accommodation in the school is fully accessible. The SEN hub has been located to avoid causing any daylighting impact to neighbouring properties. The photo on the right illustrates the dense green boundary condition, and the diagrams on the left are a shadow study which show that there is no additional shadow cast on the neighbours by the building. We have consulted extensively on this scheme and have worked well with the school to tailor the project brief to meet its specific needs. Governors, staff, parents, students and neighbours have all been consulted on both the works that make up this application and the future expansion works. The planning application does not mark the end of the consultation process, and if approved, we will continue to meet with stakeholders in order to discuss and agree the finalised details. Littlefoot School is in a relatively poorly accessible site for Newham. Public transport is mostly based around the 147 bus. This application slightly reduces the on-site car parking provision, but this will be reinstated in the future expansion application. Now I'll hand over to the Little Ilford head teacher, Ian Wilson, to make concluding remarks.
Okay, well, there's about 20 seconds left. So.
No pressure then. Right, I'll just say really to reinforce what David said, that we're delighted with the way that David and his team and the borough have worked with us. The priority build project was not ideal in terms of its use of space, and they've liberated a large amount of the playground, bringing a staircase into play that wasn't in play properly, giving us an SEN hub that was like one that we saw in Wildern School in Southampton when we were looking around for models of good practice, and expanding the dining hall to improve the experience for students at lunchtime. So we're really pleased with what they've done.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I have the screen back? Thanks. Now, there were a lot of names of people attended with interest in these items. 5 minutes has been used. Can I check, are there any objectors on item 7? Or is everyone here in support? Because I will hear from an objector. So Kate, Chad, so I can't see your full name, is it Chadwick?
Yeah.
So are you here to object?
I'm here to put a different point of view. I'm here with a parent, Emel Eslek, as well.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes and your time starts now. Thanks.
I'd like to challenge the idea that it was a detailed consultation. 12 parents were consulted on this, and I don't think that's enough in a school of the size of Little Ilford School. And I would also like to point out that if it hadn't been for the strike action of 75 members of staff, then the expansion would not be being done in the way that it was. And the proposal that will come back as the bigger expansion is a direct result of that strike action. The problem that we have is that inclusion's not working in Newham at the moment, and that with the cut in high needs funding, increasing number of children are coming from primary school without EHCPs, and that need is then being passed on to us without the funding needed to actually support these children. And so this SEN hub is a start, but it's not by any means going to be solving all of the problems that there are. And so I'll hand over to Emel, who is a parent directly concerned with this issue.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, I'm a parent of 2 children with autism, one more severe than the other. My younger son attends at Little Ilford at the moment. He's in year 8. And I just wanted to say that I was not consulted on the plans discussed from 2019. So that's a huge concern for me. But in terms of the SEND need and the purpose of this hub, I think the hub is a priority as it will provide classroom space for more people. For September, the provision needs an overhaul and a whole school approach moving forward. The hub also requires short-term and long-term planning in phases with a committee of Little Ilford staff, parents and external advisors. The second point here, external advisors in the form of an SLA or one-off advice with an existing high function ASD school population. The establishment should really be set up to include an enriched curriculum pathway, and perhaps an independent educational psychologist could consult on this, who has extensive experience in research and insights on the type of intervention required. We should be establishing a relationship with long-term outcomes for apprenticeship opportunities, for example, such as the likes of building links with Phoenix and Tower Hamlets, who provide an outreach service. We also need to establish a number of mainstream pupils currently who could potentially be a fit for such a hub. Number 3, consider pupils in the current complex hub who could transition to this provision. Again, perhaps we can consult for an SLA agreement with an independent EP to inform Little Ilford on assessing pupils which the provision is a good fit for. As the universal target-based thing that we have in Newham is just not working, it's having a detrimental effect on this suited individual intervention for pupils, and I can vouch for that. I've been going through it for 10 years, and it impacts the long-term desired outcomes. The EHCPs will be better informed too. Also, number 4, physical aspects of the hub needs to be considered. Exposure within the playground, which may require protection and proofing. Finally, the staffing aspects of the hub needs to be considered. Budgeting for recruitment and retention of experienced and permanent staff for high functioning pupils, to be able to provide an enriched teaching and external life skill programme. Little Ilford has the capacity for better forward planning to maintain and sustain its position within the borough as an outstanding oversubscribed school. The school parents and unions, along with the LA, can work stronger together proactively to fund solutions rather than being reactive to the demands of a growing school population and a very large number of pupils who hold an EHCP currently. I think the number is over 3,000 in Newham. And perhaps Little Ilford could be a role model as to forward planning to meet these types of needs, as such a plan does not exist in Newham. Forward planning for expansion of mainstream Little Ilford can only work when the need to cater for pupils with needs are watertight. Staffing and budgeting, along with external advice and involvement of interested parties, again at the staff, parents and the unions, is the only logical way forward for Little Ilford and Newham.
Thank you very much. If it's okay, don't go anywhere. There may be questions, and I will maybe go to our legal advisor to check what the parameters of matters for the planning committee and things that maybe are of education policy to be discussed elsewhere in the authority. Rachel's got a hand up. I was going to go to our officer presentation. Rachel, is it a sort of point of order?
No, I was just going to make a quick comment about the specifics we've just heard from. Would that be all right, Chair?
Yes, okay, let's do it now. Yes.
I just wanted to say that obviously there were a lot of different issues about special educational needs planning and education raised there. And I wanted to reassure the people who've come along to express those to us so eloquently that we really hear those and take them on board. And I want us to make a note and make sure that I can see that Tim Aldridge is here, and make sure that those are taken away and are taken up and discussed properly. Not all of those things, which is basically what you were saying, Chair, not all of those things are specifically relevant to planning. So if you hear some of the important points that you've raised not being taken up and discussed later, I just want you to know that doesn't mean that they haven't been heard, because they definitely have.
No, thank you. I think you put it better than me. Okay, so the officer presentation now, I think I can't actually, I can't see everyone in the room. So...
I'll share my screen now.
Oh, thank you.
Pardon. Item 7, Little Ilford School. The site is situated in the northwest of the borough within Little Ilford and is bounded by Rectory Road to the south, Browning Road to the west and Church Road to the north. The application seeks the erection of a new build extensions and refurbishment to the existing school, incorporating a new single-storey entrance pavilion, single-storey special educational needs pod, sports hall and changing room and staff room extensions. This also includes remodeling work to the existing building as well as associated landscaping works. These images are the view from the southern boundary from Rectory Road, showing the main school building and the Rectory Road entrance. The upper image in this slide is the view from the western edge of Rectory Road, showing the sports hall in the centre just off into the background, and the lower image is the view from Browning Road. This image is the aerial of the site, showing the main L-shaped school building to the right of the site, the new pitches to the north of the site, and the sports hall and existing car park to the south of the site. This plan shows the proposed site layout. The main proposals incorporate the proposed entrance pavilion, the 2 extensions to the sports hall, the special educational needs pod within the playground, the first floor staff room extension, and internal remodeling in the various parts of the main building. This plan depicts the layout and elevations of the special educational needs pod, which is to be sited within the playground to provide a quiet space and learning environment for pupils with special educational needs. This also includes a seating and play area, and green soft landscaped area, office and life skills kitchen. These plans depict the 2 extensions to the sports hall and the changing rooms. They are both single story and are to be finished in similar appearance to the existing building. These plans depict the new entrance pavilion, which is to front Rectory Road. It is to include a green roof and is to be finished in cladding and links back to the main building, providing both an ASD and visitor entrance direct into the building. This plan depicts areas of remodeling within the main building. The blue areas indicate existing areas to be remodeled, whilst the orange indicate new extensions. At the first floor, the staff room extension will extend as far as the footprint of the building and no further, and will be finished in complementary materials. In terms of key planning considerations, these are the principle of development, the design, transport and travel, and the impact upon amenity. Principle of the use of the site for education is established, and the council would be supportive of facilities that provide improved educational facilities to meet the growing and diverse needs of the borough's young population. Officers recognise the immediate benefit that this proposal would provide in creating dedicated STEM facilities and enhanced reconfiguration of the main building and the improvements to the school site overall. The extensions and additions to the existing facility are therefore supported. In terms of design and appearance, the proposed materials palette is considered to be of a high quality and will complement the existing building and the site to ensure that the extensions create a cohesive addition. Overall, the proposal is well detailed and the scale and layout of the extensions and remodeling are considered to be appropriate and complementary to the site context. Individually and cumulatively, the various elements of the proposal are considered to be proportional to the existing school. The massing and scale is appropriate to the context of the site and the school and is considered acceptable for its intended use. The design overall takes into account the needs of the school and is therefore supported. In terms of transportation, the site achieves a PTAL of 1B to predominantly 2 across the site, indicating poor access to public transportation. Car parking reduces by 6 spaces to 56 overall, and as additional 6 visitor cycle spaces are to be provided. OB and Transportation have reviewed the proposal and, whilst raising no objection, recommend conditions relating to an updated school travel plan to prioritise sustainable modes of transport and construction logistics and cycle parking provision. The development is acceptable in relation to transport and travel. In terms of the impact to neighbouring amenity, of the 857 neighbours consulted, 4 representations have been received from the public. Of these, 3 are objections with concerns considered within the report. Notwithstanding, officers have carefully considered all the matters and, subject to conditions, is anticipated not to have an unacceptable impact upon the neighbouring residential amenity. Members are asked to resolve to agree the reasons for approval as set out in this report and to grant planning permission based on the conditions listed in Appendix 1 of the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I see people again? Thank you. Right, any members have questions or comments? Right, we've got John and Rachel, and I can't see anyone else to hand out, and then James. Okay, John, Rachel, James, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've got a question regarding the cycle parking provision, which in the proposal says there will be an increase from 40 to 46 spaces, which seems to me to be a surprising lack of ambition, given that this community urgently needs young people to take up active travel and not to aspire to use motor cars when they're older. And schools have got an important role to play in this, of encouraging active travel, including cycling. So there needs to be spaces ahead of the possible demand. I'm not saying it's easy, but it seems to me that that showed a lack of ambition just to increase it by 6. But we do see, I've got a query here, because in the conditions, it mentions 235 cycle parking spaces. Now, is this to come after the following expansion? That's my question, really. How many cycle parking spaces are proposed, in fact?
Okay, I sometimes want to go around the members, but actually this is a discrete point that maybe it would be better to clarify now. So I don't know if Narinda, our transport advisor, wants to assist.
Thank you, Chair. It's, yes, I've looked at that. I know previous application which did look at some passive parking, and I feel, you know, the current climate is a lot different. We have got a target within the borough which we want to achieve quite a bit of modal shift towards cycle use, and that can only be done if we can provide the parking at the inception. And this is very important for the school. And I have put that condition, I've requested that from the officer to make sure that we do get the current car park cycle parking provisions in line with the parking standards, London parking standards. And that's quite important, and the good quality. And then it needs to be then looked at how the school does its best to promote that cycle parking. And Councillor Whitworth is quite right. If it's there, and then we look at the school to do the necessary to make sure that provision is taken up in long term or even short term, and that's how it should be taken forward. So I'm quite adamant that the cycle parking should be achieved in line with the London Plan requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then I had Rachel, and then it's James.
I would be quite interested to hear any comments from the applicants, perhaps particularly from the head, addressing some of the concerns about lack of consultation that were raised by some of the people we've heard from. Obviously, the things that stuck out were the idea that only a very small number of parents have been consulted. It would just be really helpful to hear your response to that, please.
Okay. Rachel, did you have other points?
I think that was my only point, actually. I mean,
Okay.
I would have echoed the concern about cycle parking and made some self-righteous points about the important role of schools in encouraging teenagers to cycle, but I feel like we've covered that off.
Yes, thank you. Let me see what James Beckles is raising, and then we may go to Rachel's point. James.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to hear more from the applicants about need in terms of the provision that's going to be, that's been proposed as additional to the school, and also if planning permission was not given, would this greatly affect, say, the school's intake, or just send those young people who may have a SEND condition elsewhere in the borough where there might be facilities or I don't know, or other provision for them?
Okay, is that Alan Griffith's hand up as well? Yes, Alan. And then Harvinder.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a quite different point. I'm a little concerned about the use of aluminium materials, and I wonder what the vulnerability of it is to fire, given that I understand it melts at 600 centigrade.
Thank you. Harvinder.
Chair, can I just echo some of the comments which Councillor Beckles has raised, and just to see if you can get some kind of indication from Tim Aldrich, obviously the director, about how we're going to try to address this. I know it's not a planning issue, but it's something which we might need to look at overall to ensure that we've got some kind of stability with how we're moving forward with the issues raised by and the concerns raised by the parents. Thank you.
Okay, so if I go back to the applicant team, I think Rachel had a specific question for the head teacher, but different parts of the team may wish to answer about aluminium materials, fire risk, consequences of not approval, needs, special needs, etc. So if I go over to the applicant team, how do you want to do this?
So shall I pick up the query about the aluminium, and then we can pass on the SEN and consultation comments to Ian. So in terms of aluminium, the type of panel that we're proposing isn't a sandwich panel, so it's not a bonded panel like the one at Grenfell. So it's a 3 millimeter thick powder coated aluminium. It's quite standard to use this in the building industry. We've got mineral wool insulation behind it, which isn't flammable. So it's not a fire risk in this instance. So can I hand over to Ian for the consultation comment?
Yeah, just to say, I'm not quite sure where the figure of 10 came from. We put out a letter through our website, and we also sent out a letter to all the primary heads for the feeder schools to send out to parents as well. We had 18 responses in all.
Okay, and then
sorry, could I just add to that? So there has been there's been a series of consultation events as we've gone through the design development process of this project, and that has involved various different stakeholder groups as we've gone through. And it's true to say that obviously that our main user client that we take a brief from is the senior leadership team in the school, but there has been. I mean, I've presented this scheme to the teachers at the school on three occasions, and there's been, as Ian says, there's letters that have gone out. We've done our own neighbour consultation, so we've posted letters through letterboxes on all of the surrounding houses, and we set up a website page for it and an email address. So even in COVID times, we were trying to facilitate discussion through that process. So you know, I feel like that there has been a lot of consultation on this scheme, and what I'm also saying is prior to the submission of the expansion scheme, we're going to be doing some more consultation. So it is in hand. This is one component of the project, and it doesn't increase the numbers in the school. But so there is more to come.
Okay, and should I be going now to Tim Aldridge, or was that an erroneous suggestion, Tim?
Happy, thank you, Chair, to respond.
Thank you.
Do very much appreciate the concerns that have been raised by Mel in terms of SEND provision. It is a significant challenge in Newham, and I'm well aware of the challenge. There is increasing demand, and we are working hard across the education service with schools to increase the supply of both additional provision within mainstream schools, but also special provision. So we've got an annex proposed of the JFK special school that's due to come on stream in the near future, and we have a brand new special school that's due to be provided in Newham over the next couple of years. So yes, I absolutely recognise the challenges, and this is one of many schemes to try to increase the level of provision. But we do recognise that as a partnership of statutory partners, there is more we need to do to develop the provision for children with special educational needs and disabilities. There is an executive board that I chair to review the performance of the partnership in terms of providing services to children with special educational needs and their parents. And also there is further improvement work that is ongoing. So you're absolutely right to raise concerns. You are right to say that this scheme on its own won't resolve all of those issues, but I think it is one contribution to a wider response to the increasing demand and the need to develop SEND provision in the borough. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. If it's okay, I'd like to move to a vote, if that's okay. The recommendation is on page 179 of our bundle. Can I check I've got all the members of the committee in the room? Yes, I have. Okay, all those in favour of the recommendation, which is for approval? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 in favour. That's everyone. That's unanimous. That is approved. Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone for attending. The next item is agenda item 6. Yes. my suggestion is that we have a break now, and members are particularly asked to devote time to reading the officer update. It's on my clock 18 minutes past. Do you think we can come back at 17:33, which is 15 minutes? Is that okay?
Chair,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Well, can we do that? No,
Yeah.
can we do that after the break?
Okay.
I do want to get this break in before we do anything else. Okay, so 17:33. Thank you very much. Thanks. Hello, we have a quorum, but I think not yet a legal advisor. Yes, we do. Great. Can you confirm when it's me rather than that? Oh, the display's gone, has it? We back on YouTube. Awaiting advice.
We've never left yet.
Oh, right. So if I spoke all the way through that 15 minutes, they would have heard me. Okay. Fine. Fine. Okay. So we are back. Although John Whitworth has left the screen. And where is, so we're waiting for Harvinder. Oh, no, actually, Harvinder's not going to be in this item. James is back. So all the members are back apart from John leaving the screen. Hopefully he's going to be back shortly. So while we're waiting for him, I think the first thing we'll be hearing from the applicant team. So that's Mazhar Ali and Alex Jones. Is that Mr. Kuthari?
Yes. I'm concerned why Mr. Weedy was moved from his decision making. He has a more concern.
Oh, no, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We will deal with that matter. There is time for the objectors to speak, and you can cover anything you like, including queries about that, and we will deal with them as appropriately. But I'm going to keep this orderly, and it's not a public meeting. It's a meeting in public, and members of the public who've requested to speak will be invited to speak, but should only really speak then. So John is back. So can the applicant team, I don't know if you have a presentation or just addressing us, but you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Mazhar Ali. I'm Senior Development Manager at London Borough of Newham in the housing team. My colleague Alex Young needs to be let back into the meeting. If someone could do that kindly, that'd be very helpful.
Is he addressing us?
She, Chair.
She, sorry. Is she addressing us? Or...
She's co-addressing you with me.
Oh,
Is she in the waiting room? I can't see her.
She's in the waiting room at the moment.
She's trying to get in. She's just sent me a text message.
I mean, will you plan to speak first? Can we start with?
Yes, I was, Chair. I'll start.
Please do. Please
Thank
do.
you. Thank you, Chair and members. Housing is one of the key council priorities, with over 27,000 people on the housing waiting list and over 5,000 households in temporary accommodation as of March 2020. The Mayor of Newham has pledged to start at least 1,000 new homes at London affordable rent levels by March 22. The Plashet Road scheme will provide 65 high-quality homes with a good mix of family units with high-quality mini space and dwellings built to Passive House Classic standard, and further provide a children's nursery on site. The scheme is part funded by the GLA's Building Council Homes for Londoners, which was launched in May 2018 by the Mayor of London to help councils build a new generation of high-quality council homes across London, starting by March 2023. Newham received the largest allocation of £107 million, and the programme started in 2019. The Plashet Road project is the largest development in our current programme, with a total grant allocation of £6.5 million. We must achieve start on site by March the 12th to enable grant drawdown from the GLA, as the scheme is programmed to start in the funding year 2021. It is very important we achieve a consent this evening, or we do risk losing our grant allocation. The scheme provides for a modern design and a car-free scheme to enable sustainable living. Its high energy efficiency rating will reduce fuel poverty for our residents, and by using high quality materials, the high quality materials will reduce whole life costs and lower maintenance for future generations. Thank you.
Is your colleague here?
She seems to be having some problems.
Okay.
Chair.
I mean, I'll be quite honest, and this is not just for the applicant, but for the objectors as well. We've got a very lengthy bundle setting out lots of the relevant issues. including pages and pages of consultation responses, of objections, and we've received an update as well. So if anyone's having technological difficulties and aren't able to express everything they want to, or feel the time being allocated isn't sufficient, please be reassured the members have had pages and pages of briefing on this and have read those matters. So if it's okay with you, I will now go to the objectors. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we usually provide 5 minutes. Because of the number of people wishing to speak, we are allowing 10 minutes, but please keep to that 10 minutes. It's up to you as objectors how you wish to split that time. So I'll start the clock now, if I can have an indication of who's going to start.
So can I allow Simon Davies to, local resident, I believe, to...
Of course.
Speak
Simon.
first, if that's all right, Simon?
Yeah, sure.
We can split the time equally.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just stop me when you want to start. Okay, I moved here about 8 years ago when the Upton Centre was up and running, and it was a good centre for various activities. There was Hindu groups, yoga, nursery, a general community centre, and a steel band used to practice every week there. 2016, that got demolished, and the council promised that there was going to be some kind of replacement community hub for the area. And sure enough, in 2019, a plan was made with 55 flats, a nursery and a community centre. That plan was ridiculous. The size of it was just absolutely immense. So thankfully, the plans were amended, but the new plans that were submitted were for an extra 10 flats and for a nursery, but no community centre. Now, we were very concerned the first time around with 55 flats that this would be a ridiculous sort of pressure on the resources we've already got with parking. The Claude Road and Bishop's Avenue are both one-way streets, very narrow, and this would be a 4- and 5-storey building that's put onto this site, and nothing in this area is more than 3 stories. And the house I live in is, which will be opposite the building, is 2 stories. So I'm a portrait painter, and for example, these windows out here at the top of the 2-storey, so it's twice as high as this, and another story more. So for myself and all the other houses around here, that's the light blocked out. And then there's a block of flats on Dacre Road, and they're 3 stories and 4 stories, and they'll be completely blocked as well. So we are completely and utterly aware of the fact that there is a need for social housing, and that is incredibly important. But as a council, I feel that you have a duty to the residents as well as the new incoming residents. You know, and particularly with this year of COVID we've all had, I would have thought that the main things that we've come out of this with is a need for community, space, light, and people's living has got to be, the quality of living has got to be good for everybody. And this, I feel, will just put a strain on the amenities, the doctors, the buses, the parking, the everything for both the people who are going to be living there and for the people who already live here. So anyway, I think I've had my time. Can I pass on to whoever else has wanted to speak?
Okay. So there's about 6.5 minutes left for other objectors to contribute.
Are there any other who else is here who's going to speak? Anybody? Oh, I don't think there's a. Yeah. So, you know, if yeah, that's basically my my concerns. When on the first, we would have tried to get a petition up again this time, but obviously with lockdown, I didn't think it was appropriate to knock on people's doors. But the last time we did a petition, and we got sort of in excess of 150 signatures, which I dropped with the council. Everybody sort of saying the same sort of opinions. It's you know, if you're out working till 7 each night, which a lot of people here do, and if you haven't parked by 7, then you're parking in streets down the road. And it's all very well sort of saying we want this to be you know, a 0 car building. That's great, but you know, what about the people who are visiting the people who live there and stuff like that? I mean, it's great. I'm all for a 0 car society, but unfortunately, it's to a certain extent, it's how the world is rather than how it will be. And I just think it's. I just
Hi,
think
Simon. Simon, sorry, can I interject? Because I want to echo some of your points.
Yeah, there's about 50 minutes left.
I speak on behalf of the Upton Centre Association, and I'm a special advisor to the actual committee. There is a number of points which I'm not going to get round to. However, I'll try my best to cover as many as possible. The previous officer, was his name Mr. Ali, actually mentioned high quality building. I'd like to actually say, well, it's not really high quality, and the first planning approval that was granted, which included a community centre, was of far more higher quality than this current one. I think there's been several misrepresentations by Quattro who have not represented the comments in the statements made by not only local residents but also by the community, and particularly the former users of the site. There's many, as I mentioned, discrepancies and misrepresentations and misconstrued views as well. And to further that, we had actually. We're perplexed as to why the council remained confident and adamant to build this particular site, because up until 2017, we assumed that there was, or even 19, there was going to be a centre here. During COVID, and again, this is completely beyond us. We've not been consulted regarding the second application. A lot of our community are not tech savvy. What has the consultation providers or company and the council done to actually provide the opinion or gain the opinion of the former users and the local community? And I think that needs to be addressed. I appreciate that there is time pressures around the grant, but do the council really be wanting to make an inferior quality building and rush that through and depriving the majority of the individuals that are going to really use it are elderly disabled women, which are not going to travel to this proposed site in Valletta Grove, which already, again, as mentioned, that has been misrepresented by Quattro. COVID legislation allows exemptions and extension of time. Why hasn't the ACV application got this particular protection? I received a letter from a council officer this morning saying that the site is not in use. Well, if the site was built as per Sir Robin Wales, former ex-mayor of Newham, and his promise in a cabinet meeting that I actually spoke at as well, they very clearly authorised a community centre at the proposed site. Why has that been U-turned? There is a number of discrepancies again regarding the actual site. But what I would say, again, I'm time pressured and I've got a lot of points. I would say offsetting needs to be considered by the applicant and the actual the council and this particular committee. This is not the highest design. It should involve a community centre. And if they do involve a community centre and change the proposed use, considering Section 106, this can be utilised by the local community. And I think that's beneficial to the council because they will now have the infrastructure levy form charge allows then the council to have an income through the community centre and then the nursery as well. Again, I don't understand why there cannot be an interchangeable community centre and a nursery, and why that use can't be changed. I'm going to pass to Mr. Qatari and then Varshaben Mystery.
Okay, there's only 30 seconds left. Okay.
Mr. Qatari?
Possibly frozen. Was there a third in the time? Is there someone else in the time available?
Varshaben?
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, I think somebody's got the mute on.
Varshaben, are you available to speak?
Okay. Look, I'm going to stop it there. There may be questions to the objectors anyway, which may hone in on the concerns that members have. But I am conscious that there are technology challenges. The applicant team have them as well, and the time has been used. And as I've said in previous meetings, Zoom meetings can't go on forever. It's completely impossible. So, but as said, there is a lot of meat in the objections that have been put in writing that we are aware of, and I'm sure we will come back to many of those points. Okay, let's go over to the officer presentation now. I believe the skip screen will be being shared.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm afraid it's not letting me share my screen. Just one short moment.
If not, I'm sure members will be capable of receiving an oral presentation.
Yes, I'm afraid it's not letting me share, but let me just try something else. This hopefully will work. Right, let's see if this will work. Can members see the presentation?
Yep, that's fine, thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members and members of the public. The application I'm presenting today is at the Upton Centre on Claude Road in Upton Park. Members should have due regard to the committee reports pack, where this committee report is outlined on pages 39 to 176, and to the officer's update. The image on the left is the site location plan, which shows the site outlined in red, and the image on the right is the location plan, which shows the application site outlined in red. This is an aerial image of the site, with application site outlined with a yellow dashed line. To the north of the site is Plashett Road, to the east of the site is Bishop's Avenue, to the south of the site is Claude Road, and to the west of the site is Dacre Road. You'll see that the western boundary of the site adjoins the rear gardens of some properties on Dacre Road, and also a 4-storey block of flats, which is known as Deo Court. The site is currently vacant. These are some photographs of the site. The image on the left shows the site as viewed from Bishop's Avenue.
Sorry, the site's not currently vacant. There's actually squatters and caravans in the site.
Hold on a minute. Sorry, sorry.
I'm just making it clear there is.
No, I'm sorry. Can I ask the host, can you mute everybody, please? And if that includes me and I have to unmute, that's fine. Can everyone please be muted? Thank you very much. I'm not prepared to receive interruptions. It's completely unacceptable. We have an officer update report. We are aware of what's in the officer update report. Any contributions, any interruptions, I should say, people will just be removed from the room. There are legitimate issues from the objectors that I would like to raise, and their contribution later may be useful, but it won't be useful if they're ejected from the room because they're interrupting. It's completely unacceptable, and I won't tolerate it. Harriet, carry on.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Chair? Oh, perfect. Thank you very much, Chair. So the image on the left shows the site as viewed from Bishop's Avenue, and the image on the right shows the site when viewed from Claude Road. You can see in the background of the image on the right, there are mature trees. These are protected by a TPO. My greatest apologies, Chair. I think my controls didn't let me move to the next slide. Is that because
I think the members are familiar with the application, and your oral presentation will be fine if you're having difficulties.
All right. Oh, I think it might be working now. This is another photograph of the site. This is the front elevation of the site. It's viewed from Plashet Road. Again, you can see the mature trees to the front of the site. This is a timeline of the application site, and I'm going to explain the recent history of the site. So the application site had a school on the site, which then closed, and for a period of 30 years was used as a community facility, otherwise known as the Upton Centre. This was closed in December 2014. On June 2015, a cabinet decision was made to formally close the Upton Centre, and in September 2016, the Upton Centre was demolished. In February 2019, an application under the reference number 18/03413/full was approved. This was a residential-led scheme with 55 affordable units, with a nursery and a community centre style facility. This community centre style facility, it was fitness and health based, and included a gym, a fitness studio, health suite, and a community cafe / function room. In January 2020, a cabinet decision was made to proceed to redevelop the site to provide a nursery and residential development only. And in November 2020, this current application, which I'm presenting today, was submitted to the local planning authority for review. The application for full planning permission is for the department to provide a Part 4, Part 5-storey building comprising a children's day nursery of 362 square metres at ground floor level, 65 residential dwellings on ground 4 floors and roof level plant. The creation of new play space, landscaping, cycle parking, access and electrical substation, in addition to associated on-street car parking. Please note that this is a revised description with revised drawings and documentation that was submitted in January. As such, a full reconsultation was undertaken in January. This is the proposed site plan. As you can see, the building is U-shaped, with on the southwest corner, the nursery being located. This is the north and east boundaries of the proposal. As you can see, the trees have been faded out in white, so you get an idea of the scale of the trees and also how the building interacts with these trees. It is of high importance that the protected trees are retained, and this is why the building is so generously set back from the front elevations. These are the south and east boundaries of the proposal. And this is a view of the internal courtyard. I will turn now to the principle of development. There are 3 key areas of assessment. The first relates to the 2 proposed uses that this application is seeking approval for, and that is the acceptability of proposed affordable residential accommodation and the acceptability of proposed nursery. A number of consultation responses have been received about the lack of a community centre style facility being provided on the site. It's very important that the council also has due regard to this matter, as this is clearly of public importance. So I will turn first to the principle of residential development. The London Plan policies identify a pressing need for more homes of varying sizes and tenures. Local Plan Policy H1 outlines needs for additional quality homes of mixed housing type, size and tenure. Proposed development will provide 65 affordable dwellings on a site that is vacant and undeveloped. The residential redevelopment of the site will positively contribute to the borough's housing stock, noting the demand for increased housing. It is noted that the local character is predominantly residential. It should also be noted that the principle of a residential-led scheme was previously established under the application that was approved by Strategic Development Committee in February 2019. As such, the principle of a residential-led development is supported. Turning now to the acceptability of the nursery. The nursery is a community facility and is such appropriate in this location. Key area of consideration is whether there is an identified need for a nursery at the site. As such, due regard has been given to Newham's childcare sufficiency assessment, which identifies the Plaistow North ward as having half the places per child than the borough average. There is identified deficiency in nursery spaces for 2-year-olds in Plaistow North. The nursery will make a positive contribution to nursery provision within the borough. The principle of providing a nursery on the site has previously been established in the application that was approved by a Strategic Development Committee in February 2019. As such, the principle of delivering a nursery on the site is supported. I will turn now to the matter relating to the lack of a community centre style facility being provided on the site. It should be noted that some community floor space is being provided as part of the development in the form of a nursery. The site has a community facility allocation under the local plan. A number of consultation responses have objected on the grounds of a lack of a community centre style facility being provided. As you know, the former Upton Centre was closed over 6 years ago. A cabinet decision was made in January 2020 to deliver a residential-led development with a nursery. I will look first at the policy context in regards to community facilities on the site. The draft London plan seeks for development to provide high-quality, inclusive social infrastructure, which addresses local and strategic needs and supports service delivery strategies. The co-location of different forms of social infrastructure and rationalising facilities is also supported. The local plan policy relates to local plan policy INF 8, and this outlines the strategic principles in relation to community facilities. Local plan policy INF 8 outlines.
Sorry, Harriet, I'm just going to interrupt. Can the host just mute everybody, and then we won't have the interruptions that we're getting. Thank you. I've unmuted myself. Harriet, I think you'll need to unmute yourself as well, but hopefully that will be better now. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Chair? Thank you very much. Sorry, I'll need to go back one slide. I think my controls have been frozen. Can my controls be unfrozen?
You shouldn't be.
Ah, thank you. I'm just going to reshare my screen. My apologies, when I'm muted, the control stopped working on my slideshow. I can't move my slides. I'm not sure why. Let me just. So I'll try once more, my apologies. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. So, as I was saying, the local plan policy INF 8 outlines the strategic principles in relation to community facilities. Local plan policy INF 8E outlines that where the release of a community facility building or site to other uses is proposed, evidence must be provided that the facility has been either assessed and identified as surplus as part of a broader strategic approach, changing the model of provision that is considered to be of local benefit, offered to the market for a range of existing lawful uses, typically use class D1 for a period of 6 months, or shown to be unsuitable in size and scale for its location in relation to spatial strategic prioritising of town and local centres as locations of community facilities. It should be noted that this is a summary of the policy, and the full policy is actually outlined within the committee report itself. A community needs assessment documentation was submitted with this application, and this document identifies which former users have found or have been assisted in finding alternative premises by the council. It does confirm that some former users of the Upton Centre have not found premises. Any new community facility would need to meet the tests of Local Plan Policy INF 8, including that it should be open to use by all members of the community. The former facility provided a unique opportunity for local community in the fact that it was a former empty school building and that it benefited from large areas of off-street car parking. A similar facility as to that was previously provided and later demolished 6 years ago would be difficult for the council to redeliver on site. It should be noted that some consultation responses have cited that the previous application did include a community facility element, and that is correct. Though it should be noted that this was focused mainly around health and fitness, as the floor space consisted of a gym, health suite, fitness studio, and a cafe function room. To redeliver a community floor space to the same extent that had been provided by the Upton Centre before it was demolished would compromise the delivery of affordable housing. Local Plan supports the delivery of new community facilities in designated local town centres in areas of high PTEL, and it should be noted that the site is not located in a town centre. On screen, you will see a map of the borough or the local area of the site, with the site marked in a red cross. The coloured dots indicate other community facilities which are on Newham Council's website and areas that are open for hire by community groups. As you will see, a lot of them are located in areas of high PTEL and located in designated local centres, and there are a number in close proximity to the site, one of which includes Valletta Grove, a new community facility. The facility had been an asset of community value. However, its listing has expired and the local community group has been notified of its expiration. It has been noted that a number of groups have contacted the council, and these are residents living in proximity to the site and people who either used to be part of a group or who lead a group who used to use the Upton Centre. And it is acknowledged by the council that this was a valued local facility that was well used by residents of Newham. A number of these groups have cited concerns about the fact that not re-providing a community facility on the site would have impacts on people with protected characteristics. And those that are specifically cited within the consultation responses are age, disability, sex, race, religion, and faith. The council has paid due regards to this. It should be noted that there will be no greater impact on these groups with protected characteristics when compared to the existing state of the site and the state of the site as it has been for the past 6 years. As you know, the site has been vacant for a period of 6 years. It should also be noted that affordable housing and a nursery will have benefits on residents with protected characteristics. The Local Planning Authority has paid due regard to the range of complex matters that surrounds the re-provision of a community facility on site, particularly also the range of community facilities that are in close proximity to the site and the types of services that are required. On balance, the Local Planning Authority considers that the lack of a re-provided community centre style facility on this occasion is supported. I will now address matters relating to the design of the proposal. The development is between 4 to 5 stories and this is considered appropriate in an urban setting. The proposal benefits from generous setbacks with new soft landscaping. The proposal has been subject to significant pre-application discussions in relation to design and has been also subject to design review panel and design review panel chairs review. A number of changes have been made to the scheme as a result of this, particularly detailing of the lower story, which has been improved in response to design comments. The soft landscaping strategy has been enhanced with the implementation of new mature trees. Conditions have been attached to ensure this design quality is delivered, and this includes that samples of materials are submitted to the Local Planning Authority for approval and that architectural details are approved. The design of the proposal is supported subject to these conditions. I will now turn to impact on amenity. Draft London Plan policies require that development design should deliver appropriate outlook, privacy and amenity. Local Plan Policy SP8 states that all development is expected to achieve neighbourliness. Officers have had due regard to the broad range of impacts that may result from the development. The Council has noted that a number of consultation responses raise a broad range of potential impacts, including loss of daylight sunlight, overlooking, loss of outlook, overbearing impact, noise and disturbance, impacts on safety, and impact on local services, particularly local public transportation and GP and dental practices. As the site is vacant and undeveloped, the Council notes that there will likely be impacts on neighbouring amenity. I will first turn to impact on privacy, over outlook and overbearing impact. And as I've previously mentioned, the site is generously set back, the proposal is generally set back from the site boundaries. And one of the key reasons for this is the presence of protected trees around the site. It's so highly important that those trees are protected. As a result of this setback, generous distances are maintained between the elevations of the proposal and neighbouring properties, which you can see are approximately 25 metres separation distance between the front elevation and the properties on the other side of Plashet Road, 22.7 metres between the east elevation and the properties of Bishop's Avenue, 27 metres between the southern elevation and the properties of Claude Road, and 5.5 metres between the west elevation and the boundary of the gardens of the properties of Dacre Road. Daylight and sunlight assessment permitted. This shows the impacts on properties of Plashet Road, Dacre Road, Bishop's Avenue and Claude Road. 348 windows have been identified as being susceptible to impact. 71 of those properties have passed the 25-degree line test and 192 achieved vertical sky components greater than 27%. 63 windows attained relative vertical sky components of 0.8 times the formal value. 177 windows have been assessed for sunlight value, and of those, 37 passed the 25-degree line test and 134 windows satisfied the compliant criteria for APSH and WPSH. Solar access analysis was undertaken for 8 amenity spaces. All amenity spaces are predicted to receive a minimum of 2 hours of sunlight on the 21st of March over at least 50% of their assessed space. Although it is noted that there will be some impact on daylight and sunlight, this level of impact is considered to be acceptable in this urban setting. In terms of other impacts, noise and disturbance is one matter that has raised in several consultation responses, and this is twofold. Firstly, it relates to the construction phase and also to the final occupation of the site. Turning first to the occupation of the site, although it is noted that the site is vacant and as such the intensification will result in some noise and disturbance, given the urban setting of the site and the anticipated number of occupiers, this is not considered to be unacceptable and doesn't result in unacceptable noise and disturbance. In terms of the construction of the site itself, construction management plan condition has been attached, and this restricts the hours of construction and outlines controls to mitigate noise and dust pollution. As such, it is not perceived that the proposal will result in unacceptable levels of noise and disturbance. In terms of concerns about safety implications, the application has been consulted to the Metropolitan Police Service, and a secure by design condition and informative has been attached. In terms of impact on local services, the proposal will be subject to SIL payment, which will make contributions to local infrastructure. As a number of responses raised particular concern about impact on local public transportation, the Council specifically sought the views of Transport for London as local public transportation provider to ask if they had any concerns about the impact on their services. They raised no objection to this. In summary, the impacts on neighbouring community are considered acceptable, particularly by reason of the generous separation distances and setbacks from the front elevations of the property. I'll turn now to housing mix and quality accommodation. The proposal will deliver a policy compliant level of family accommodation. The proposal will meet internal and amenity standards as outlined in draft London Plan and technical housing standards. All units are dual aspect and will benefit from sufficient outlook. Although some proposed units do not meet the daylight sunlight standards, on balance, this is considered to be acceptable due to the constraints of the passive house design, which does cause some limits to daylight sunlight access. 90% of the units will meet the M42 standard and 10% will meet the M43 standards. As such, the mix and quality accommodation is acceptable. Trees and biodiversity, the tree is bordered by 12 protected trees, which are shown on the image on screen. The retention and protection of these trees is of key importance. The condition requires that trees are protected in line with the approved arboricultural strategy, which was submitted to the council and is considered to be acceptable. A soft landscaping strategy has been improved to deliver new mature trees, and this is supported. It should be noted that the site is currently of low ecological value, and the new planting and retention of the trees is considered to make improvements to biodiversity on site. The impact on trees and biodiversity is therefore considered to be acceptable. Turning now to travel and transportation. The site has a PTAL of 3, which is due to increase to 4 in 2021. The proposal will be car-free apart from blue badge for blue badge holders, and this is secured via a unilateral undertaking. A parking stress survey was carried out by the applicant, and this shows sufficient capacity on local roads for blue badge holders. A couple of the consultation responses raised concerns about the quality of the parking stress survey methodology. This has been reviewed by the council's transportation team and is considered to be acceptable as it follows the Lambeth methodology. Cycle parking has been provided, and this is compliant with draft London Plan standards. Over the course of the application, the cycle stalls were amended in line with recommendations by Transport for London, particularly regarding the utilisation of shepherd stands, which are easy to use by members of the public and residents, and also increasing the widths of the aisles to make sure the cycle parking spaces were truly accessible. A construction management plan and travel plan conditions have been attached, and car club provision and public realm improvements are secured by unilateral undertaking. The proposal is acceptable in terms of its impact on transportation, subject to conditions and unilateral undertaking. I will turn now to the consultation procedure that was undertaken on this proposal. A number of the consultation responses have raised issue about the perceived lack of consultation. I'd like to first outline the consultation that was undertaken by the local planning authority. 2 rounds of consultation were undertaken, and the second one was due to a description change. As part of this, site notices were erected both in November and January. Up to 391 letters were sent out to residents seeking their views, and press notices were published in November and January. The local planning authority has fulfilled its duty to consult. The London Borough of Newham Regeneration team have also undertaken their own consultation on the proposal, and this included 2 exhibition sessions and a website. Summaries of the issues raised in the public consultation are addressed on pages 54 to 55 of the committee report. It has been noted that some of the residents have made reference to the fact that the petition had been submitted for the previous application, but was unfortunately not able to be organised in the current pandemic situation. For purposes of clarity, I have actually attached a copy of the previous petition, the cover letter, to Appendix 4 of this committee report, and that can be seen on pages 175 to 176. The members should have due regard to the fact that this was the petition that accompanied the previous application. This is a summary of the consultation that was undertaken. 391 letters were sent out, and we received 39 consultation responses, of which 1 was in support and 38 were objecting to the proposal. As outlined in the officer's update, we have received a new letters from the Upton Community Association. This is in addition to a number of letters that were received by community groups, and you can see those within the committee report. But I wanted specifically to address the matters related that are outlined in the Upton Community Association letters that were submitted after the committee report was published. This letter raised the following matters. It questioned the bidding process for the Upton Centre and the quality of the submitted community needs assessment documentation. In terms of the Upton Centre's asset community value, this is point 1, as I've already outlined in this PowerPoint presentation, this is no longer asset community value, and the community association has been notified of that. In terms of the quality of the community needs assessment documentation, officers consider that this is a good report, but have had due regard to the number of letters that were sent by local community groups and have had due regard to their concerns. In regards to impact on neighbouring amenities, these matters are addressed on pages 138 to 142 of the committee report. Concerns raised about density in the letter is addressed in pages 135 to 136, design on pages 136 to 137, car parking on page 150, impact on those in protected characteristics 133 and 244, and lack of consultation page 54. The other considerations are listed on the slide. These are all considered to be acceptable and are supported. The Strategic Development Committee is asked to note the committee update and to resolve to agree the reasons for approval as set out in the report and to delegate authority to the Director of Planning and Development to grant planning permission subject to the completion of the legal agreement under Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act as amended, based on the heads of terms identified at Appendix 2 of this report and the conditions listed in Appendix 1 of the report and summarised below. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 18:19. I'd like to have a short break till 18:21, basically 2 minutes. Thanks. Can I ask before we start again, John, are you having to leave us? You're muted. And Rachel, are you having to leave us? You're also muted.
Hello, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, as I indicated to you, but others may not know, I'm chairing a meeting which starts at 6:30. So I think I will need to leave now, as we won't be making any decisions in the next 10 minutes.
No, indeed not.
That's what I propose, if you'll excuse me.
Can you hold off a second, Rachel? Are you leaving us?
I do really want to leave at 6:30, but equally I don't want to leave the committee in quorum, so I can stay for longer. I'm likely to be interrupted at various points and moving around the house.
Yeah, okay.
So apologies.
Well, thanks for that information. I'm going to formally restart the meeting, although everyone heard that. John, before you go, I'm very anxious to hear anything you want to say on the matter, but I appreciate you won't be able to vote on it if you leave.
Well, I do appreciate the need for housing, and the conditions which is being proposed are very attractive. That is a great boost to our housing delivery. I am concerned, though, about the withdrawal, the complete withdrawal of the community facility and the way that was done. And I can understand concerns that there will not be another in the vicinity. And the explanations really that there are others nearby is not really adequate, I think. So I do feel uncomfortable about the withdrawal of the community element and the reasons and the mitigations offered. I think I'll perhaps leave you just with that.
No, thank you very much. That is appreciated. Your position is always valued and respected. You'll leave the hard decisions to the rest of us.
I'll leave that decision to you. Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I'm going to go next.
I will leave now with your
of course, I totally understand.
And apologies, and good night, everyone.
Thank you very much. I mean, I completely agree with John. I find the tone in relation to the deprival of the community asset of the community centre completely unsympathetic to the nature of this borough, completely lacking in any communication of understanding the multicultural nature of our borough and the needs of it. I find the reference to the gap in time since the community centre, since the Upton Centre was demolished, and therefore it doesn't matter that there was a community centre and the protected characteristics are being affected. I find that quite offensive. These communities exist. Just because the Upton Centre hasn't been here, that doesn't mean those people don't matter. I find the discussion around the vegetarian kitchen, which I think is a perfectly reasonable aspect of a conversation about what kind of facilities we are providing to our community, quite dismissive, and that tone unacceptable. And I think I will stop there because I am trying to express how unhappy I am with the nature of this application. Now, that is slightly separate to whether we have grounds in planning terms to refuse the application. And I just want to remind everybody, because there was something in page 8 of the update that was talking about the mayor and the cabinet making a decision at this committee. This is not the mayor and this is not the cabinet, and it's not our decision to bring an application that does not include a community centre. Our decision now is to apply material considerations under the planning system to see whether their application without a community centre is appropriate. And I am reminded of the publication, which I have raised previously in this local authority, London Planning for a Just City, exploring how local planning authorities are embedding equality and inclusion in planning policy, the TCPA and Trust for London publication, which discusses the importance of community centres and community hubs and those with protected characteristics having those facilities, and provide some exemplar guidance of how we respect that when we're having to make difficult decisions. I did say I would stop and I didn't because I'm quite annoyed. Right, who wants to go next? Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a number of points, and with your permission, I'd like to perhaps raise all of them and then ask officers to respond to them. I mean, I think overall the first and quite obvious point to make is that, you know, this application addresses an absolutely overwhelming need for affordable homes in Newham, and it addresses it with actually genuinely affordable homes, which, as we know, is, you know, sadly quite rare. That is a significant point in its favour, and I weigh that with great seriousness, as indeed I'm sure all of my colleagues will. There are some small points I wanted to make. I would like to seek some assurance about the cycle storage. You know, I always end up making this point, but you know, the number of places available is quite different from whether they are accessible, easy to get to, well lit, safe, and signal easily to visitors, that's how we expect people to arrive. You know, there's all kinds of things that we can do with cycle parking to create the kind of homes that we want people to live in. An overarching problem for me is that I still haven't seen any images of this building, and I'm really confused and unsure why that is. I kept flicking through the papers looking for images of the actual building rather than just the floor plans, and then I thought, oh well, they'll certainly be in the presentation and I can have a good look at them there, but they weren't there either, and this is this is a bit extraordinary to me, actually, particularly given one of the concerns from one of the objectors that the buildings were not of a high quality, and it's almost impossible to look at that and to have any kind of informed opinion without any pictures at all. So with that in mind, I would really like to ask the chair of the design review panel to give some comments on the building. In terms of the former users of the building, I share your concern, Chair, that the justification that because there's been nothing there for 6 years must mean that people can cope is a kind of concerning one. I feel it's not a very robust argument, and using that justification, you could basically take away anything for a long period of time and then say, well, it's obviously fine without it. You know, obviously life goes on. You know, the area hasn't gone up in flames, but I don't know what our criteria is for saying. I also was particularly interested that some former users have not managed to find alternative accommodation, and I really need to know how many former users and what proportion that represents of the total. I do think there's an overall point, which is maybe not relevant here in strict planning terms, about community facilities for specific faith groups. And, you know, we can't thrash that out here and now, certainly not in the next 20 minutes. But, you know, I think the previous administration had a particular view about working with faith groups, which I didn't necessarily share. This administration takes a much more positive view about the role that faith and faith groups have in our borough. And I just think that we need, not retrospectively, not reactively to a planning application, but we need to have a proper conversation. And this would probably involve the cabinet leads for interfaith work and also for community spaces, that being one of our deputy mayors, to think really carefully about what our strategy is in terms of community centres that offer space for people to get together under the auspices of their faith. Faith is a really important part of the borough. There's all kinds of things going on, and I feel that there's a big question there, and I feel that some of that frustration is what's being expressed by some of the people who were opposing this. Similarly, in terms of something that isn't necessarily relevant to this, I feel organisationally that we're handling this question about the asset of community value really unnecessarily badly. I think when people hear the term asset of community value, they quite naturally assume a level of protection, which actually the legal framework for an asset of community value doesn't really afford. It's not very convincing. It is a bit lip service. The whole thing that's provided under the Localism Act, to me, it's not clear at all what that really does for community buildings. But I think understandably, when residents hear that something is an asset of community value, they have expectations about protection and about perpetuity and about support. And even if those expectations are nowhere in the legislation, we should, as an organisation, be able to do better than to just write a letter at the last minute which says, oh, by the way, it isn't one anymore. I think that's it just handles it unnecessarily badly, I think. And I think similarly, the point about the parking stress timing, I take the point, and I know in planning we are always talking about the way that assessments are generally done. But I think if the residents are saying that actually the real parking stress exists at a different time of day, then that's maybe something that we should be a bit more flexible about. You know, that said, I'm not sure how many additional trips, vehicular trips, will be generated by this use, given that it will be car free. So the people living there won't be able to get parking permits, and they won't be parking cars on the roads around. If any of them are really absolutely determined to have cars, then they may, rent a driveway somewhere, but that would be a private arrangement and wouldn't have any infringement upon the public highway. I think that's probably more than enough for me, Chair. Thank you.
Any other members? I will bring in Neil Dealey on the design, which I think Rachel's right that it's not particularly clear from what we've been given so far. But do James and Alan want to say anything? You're not obliged
Chair.
to, James.
No, it's fine, Chair. I'm just thinking back to when I was the councillor for this specific area. This was an area and an issue that was raised time and time again. I was lobbied by it, and maybe I should have declared it, but I'm no longer the councillor, so I didn't feel I needed to, by various members of the community about the loss of the community centre. And it was always put forward that a community centre would be brought back in any future development. The fact that it's been taken away is quite sad, really. And I do think residents deserve to have a greater insight as to where the applications are and the actual design of the building. Similar to what Rachel said, it's hard to make a decision about quality, design, and even appearance of a building if you can't see it in the application papers. And although I'd be loath to vote against it, I would say for this to be deferred, for the images to be supplied, for us to take another step to speak again with residents and try to address that. You know, this is not a private developer that's bringing an application. It's our own organization. It's LBN Regeneration. I think we owe it to our residents and we owe it to ourselves as a committee to have the full facts. If this were any other organization that was bringing such a design, we would question it and we would interrogate it. And I think we need to do the same. And on that note, I'll let Alan or Neil answer or ask questions.
Okay. Alan, do you want to say anything? You're not obliged to.
Well, it seems to me there's all sorts of problems about the history of the site, but I don't think it's for the officers involved in planning applications or in proposing the development to do things like helping community groups to find alternative venues. I think that's other officers' responsibility, and that might be something that needs chasing up separately from this meeting. But if I understand it rightly, the fact that somebody would prefer something different to be built on the site isn't a good reason for refusing planning permission, and perhaps that's something that our lawyer can advise us on.
Thank you, Alan. That's I think helpful, and as I think accurate. Although I will come back on the role of planning in securing community spaces, but I think broadly that would be my view. Amanda, do you want to say anything as the legal advisor?
I just would like to just run through a few things that I've heard and just to make sure I understand it as well. So I've reminded the direction at the beginning of the planning committee and planning pack that we always include that development and decisions also always need to be made in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. As I understand it from what's been relayed to me, it is a cleared site. The use of the site was last used 6 years ago, and the design of the new scheme is considered acceptable in accordance with the development plan. It is a community facility being a nursery, so some of that use has been restored, even though it is not the same community facility which has previously been there. Going through just a couple of the other points. Alan is right, a lot of the things we've discussed are not material considerations, so we can't really look at the past history or use of the site in that way as a former community centre. Also, I understand it is not an asset of community value, so you can give no weight to it being listed as one, because I believe it is not listed and it has been delisted prior to this committee in order to make that clear. I also understand the decision to delist it as an asset of community value came some time ago, but the actual removal of the Upton Centre notice from the website did not occur. So that was an administrative error. But there is no weight to be attached to it as a former asset of community value. So it is what it is before you today, an application for housing plus a nursery on a cleared site in accordance with the officer's report.
Yeah, thanks. I think that sounds, it obviously is correct because it's our legal advice and it's what I thought would be correct. I still, I maintain my position, which I've said already, and I won't delay people, that I think this could have been handled a lot better in terms of some of these issues. And in terms of securing the site for community use, the communication on that has been poor, and the justification, which I think could be made, and I'm minded to vote for approval, could be made a lot better without such insensitivity. And that's what makes me so angry. I don't want to have applications come into this committee that get the tone so badly wrong as this one does. And that's really what I'm so angry about. James suggested a deferral. I don't think he's formally moved it. I think the timing of this is such that would have consequences for the applicant delivering the proposal that's in the application. But if he wants to move it, he's obviously at liberty too. I'll let him think about that. Neil Dealey and Rachel asked some questions about the design quality. Do you wish to say anything as independent chair of the design review panel?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, Councillor Tripp, were you interested in? I mean, obviously, you're saying you haven't got much to go on. I completely understand that. I mean, all I can say from the perspective of the design review panel is that they were very happy with the scheme as it stood when it went into planning. There was a lot of discussion. Normal sorts of topics were covered around materiality, fenestration, the architecture. I think one of the things that we were sort of most impressed by was the environmental standards that this building is trying to achieve. And they're really, at the sort of top of what you would expect to try to achieve with housing of this sort. So that was really, really good and very, very positive. That was putting some limitations on other aspects of design, but in the round, we felt that it was a very positive brief to have. Obviously, we can't comment on the brief and how the brief was written, but the project was one that I think the design review panel were very happy with and happy to see sort of go forwards. I realise it's frustration that you can't actually see what it is or what it looks like or how it works, but the principles were very, very similar to the previous application. In terms of there being some gallery access and there being a central courtyard and nursery is in the same place. But the architecture was quite different, but looked, sensible and looked deliverable. And I think that was one of the things that the council was stressing to us that this scheme was really trying to do, is to get on the ground as quickly as possible so it could provide housing for people in Newham, and that was something that we were supporting in terms of the speed at which we were trying to have those design discussions. I hope that is answering some of your questions. If not, I can come back.
Rachel, we also have the officer. Should we hear from the officer, Rachel, first, then I'll call you in? Harriet.
Thanks. Firstly, just to say, Chair, I've got the images on screen if you'd like me to share my screen to show those.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'll just do that now. Just 1 second. Here we go. Right, so can you see my screen?
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
You can see, so this is the courtyard west elevation of the building. This is the courtyard south elevation of the building. This is the courtyard north elevation. This is the courtyard east elevation. This is the north elevation as it would be seen from Plashett Road. And these are some of the details of the internal walkways and balconies. The PowerPoint presentation does include some visuals of the site. The reason why this was included, as you can see, the building's U-shaped, is you can't easily get a full elevation. So I can take you back to the visuals if that would be helpful, Chair, that were on the PowerPoint.
I will defer to Rachel if she had further queries. Rachel.
Yeah, there were just a couple of things I wanted to say. I mean, I guess the first thing is that we cannot have applications like this again with no images of the actual building in the papers. Like, I do appreciate the images being brought up now, but obviously, having them on screen without the ability to consider them properly is just, this cannot and must not happen again. The other thing that I wanted to say for the minutes, but also for the sake of the objectors, is that I wanted to make clear that Neil Dealey, who has spoken, is the chair of our design review panel, and I am considerably reassured by his professional opinion because I've had around 6 years, maybe longer, on the planning committee and have seen the design review panel giving really robust, professional, well-reasoned and pragmatic judgments, which are not about them just coming in to okay everything that the council wants, but are very much about them upholding the highest standards of design. So I just, again, in terms of us just managing this unnecessarily badly, I think, you know, what this looks like, if you're on the outside, is like some random person has just popped up and said, oh, seems fine to me. But actually that's not the case at all. You know, he is a highly experienced architect leading a group of people who have the responsibility to advise us on design, and they do that really, really well. It's just that process isn't necessarily obvious to people who I think are going to be feeling really frustrated. And because that isn't being spelt out, I felt it was incumbent upon me to spell it out, really.
Yeah. No, thanks very much. Now, if James isn't going to move his deferral,
no, Chair, I won't move it.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to make one final remark. I think the applicant missed an opportunity here, and I'm going to go back to how other local authorities can do this kind of thing better, and that's have regard to the Joiners Arms Preston in Tower Hamlets, where a venue for protected for people with a protected characteristic, namely a gay pub, which had been out of use, came back as part of a redevelopment. And I think there's been a missed opportunity here to really show some empathy with what is going on with this site. However, as I said before, we are not the cabinet, we are not the mayor, despite what some of the papers beseeching us to do things say, and we did not bring the application this way. We have to apply the planning law and the relevant material considerations, as our legal advisor has said. And on that basis, I will go to a vote. The recommendation is on page 41. Strategic Development Committee is asked to resolve to agree the reasons for approval as set out in the report. I think as set out in the report, I will vote for with gritted teeth. Okay, all those in favour? Okay, that's 4. We have a quorum. That's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. That's been approved, and apologies to the objectors who I think made some very valid points. Date of next meeting, I don't know if that has been finalised. It's in the diary for one date. We were possibly having to move it.
Chair, I've sent communications for it to be a month today, 24th of March.
Thank you very much. And will that be at 5 p.m. on
It's
that
at 5
occasion?
p.m.
Thank you very much. Right. If there's no further business, I will close the meeting. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Janine.
Hi, Shelley. As host, you have to end the meeting.
I do. Oh. I think you do, don't you?
You're host at the moment.
Oh, it doesn't say. Yes, it does. Okay, thank you very much. We'll speak later, yeah?